In Israel, the top court has put a temporary halt on the dismissal of the country's domestic intelligence chief. The Israeli government had earlier approved Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's proposal to remove Ronen Bar from his post. The ruling allows the High Court to consider petitions launched against the dismissal. Netanyahu has said he'd long ago lost confidence in Bar, seen here on the right. Bar himself has previously hinted he might resign after taking responsibility for failing to prevent the Hamas terror attacks of October 7, 2023. And DW's Middle East analyst Shani Rosanes joins me now in the studio. Shani, Israel's High Court has, for the moment, halted the dismissal of the Shin Bet chief. Why did the government decide to fire him in the first place?
Well, Netanyahu claims it's loss of trust, but it seems to be that there's much more underneath the surface. Bar himself, the Shin Bet head, for now, was saying that he feels that Netanyahu is trying to get back at him and the organization for having initiated an investigation looking into some of Netanyahu's top aides and their connections with Qatar. Qatar is not an enemy state, but it has, of course, a very contentious relationship with Israel, having been the supporter of Hamas for so many years. And so this very investigation, we know, is nothing that makes Netanyahu too happy. And Bar suggests this is why, and not October 7th. We are seeing what we're seeing now. And this topic is very much a divisive issue in Israel, and we're seeing a lot of response to what we've been seeing, the dismissal and now the court ruling in Israel. Many people feeling that Israel is now at the brink of a very deep constitutional crisis, because if Netanyahu decides to not obey the courts, we might be facing an unprecedented situation in Israel. We'll have to see what happens in the next days.
This all comes in the same week that Israel has begun a new ground offensive in Gaza. Defense Minister Katz said the longer Hamas continued to hold the hostages, the more territory it would lose in Gaza. Is this new offensive even more destructive than the last one?
Well, it might be, and Netanyahu and his defense minister you just quoted will stop at very little, and there are no Americans to stop him. Trump seem to be very supportive of whatever it is Netanyahu is aiming to do, himself threatening several times to open the floodgates of hell on Gaza, as if it has not been opened already many months ago. What we're seeing now is the Israeli government trying to go into even more aggressive mode, hoping to bring Hamas to some concessions in the negotiations to release hostages. Hamas has said all along the only way for for Israel to bring out hostages would be sticking to the deal, the one that started in January, and was supposed to get into its second phase. And Netanyahu blames Hamas blames Netanyahu on the breakup of this truce. But Israel's military operations in Gaza, the threat is to get even more and more aggressive with time. And as long as we see the American administration sitting idly by, also with no aid coming into Gaza for almost 3 weeks now, it's probably what we're going to see. Unfortunately, much more suffering, much more pain for the 2 million Gazans.
The fact that this ceasefire agreement didn't get into its second phase, from a neutral point of view, whose fault is it?
Well, there's nothing neutral in the Middle East, but the fact was that the agreement had 2 phases, and the second phase would have needed Israel to withdraw completely from the Gaza Strip, and in return would be getting the remainder of the hostages. Hamas says it is still willing to do that if Israel is willing to withdraw. And what Israel is trying to do in the last week, since resuming the fighting, is basically regain another leverage and saying, okay, well, you want to go back into whatever it was we were discussing. Now we're fighting. If you want anything else, first we stop the fighting and then we'll move on. So a bit, more leverage. I don't see it working. Unfortunately, always complicated.
And it will remain so. Thank you very much, our Middle East analyst, Shani Rosanes.